Welcome to Community Voices with your host, Terrence Lachey. This radio roundtable features community, business, and religious leaders that discuss current events and topics that impact our urban community. If you would like to be a guest or if you have a suggested topic, contact the station today at 616-259-7342. Now, into the program.
Welcome, everybody. We are on Community Voices here on Power 91.9, The People's Choice. And we're on YouTube as well, so make sure you're following us there as well. I am Lee Stevens. I'm sitting in for Pastor Lachey, and I have a great panel today. We are going to talk about Black women in politics, and we have three incredible women right now. Let's meet them. Yeah, the studio audience.
Yes.
Come on, studio audience. Black women in politics, and I have three incredible women that I can say I know all of them, very much so. So I'm going to start to my right, and I'm going to go left. Monica Sparks. Now tell everybody your current position and what you're going for re-election for.
Thank you, Lee. I am Monica Sparks, Kent County Commissioner, District 12, Wyoming and Kentwood. And this will be my third term, hopefully. So I'm going hard and trying to still be a commissioner that people can count on.
That's right. And then to my left, a lady I know for some time as well. Introduce yourself, Kristian Grant, your current position and what you are going for in the fall.
Thank you. So glad to be here. I am Kristian Grant. I currently serve on the Grand Rapids Public School Board. I've been there for 6 years, and I am running for District 82 for state representative.
State representative.
Past president, too, of the school board.
Yeah, past president for 2 terms.
That's right. And then last but definitely not least, her current position is anything in the community. So I'm just going to help you out with that right now. But she is running for office in the fall. So introduce yourself and tell everybody what you're running for in the fall.
Yes, Lisa Knight. I am new executive director for the Girls Choral Academy, president and CEO of DV Apple Logistics, LMK Consulting, and I am running for Second Ward Commissioner.
Second Ward Commissioner here in the city of Grand Rapids. So listen, right off the bat, because I do know all of you, you all have multiple hats. You all are doing something outside of actual positions in politics right now, and then also a lot of stuff in the community. So how do you balance that? Because having run for office myself, that's a lot, but I know my beautiful Black women can handle anything and multiple things and juggle it. So how are we doing this? Especially in this climate of politics.
It's funny that you say how, and that we as Black women do it. At some point, we shouldn't have to. Mm-hmm. But we always find the space to see the need and step in and pick things up when others aren't. And it's not easy work. Being a mother of 11, I have 12 going on 12 grandkids and 2 great-grands getting ready to be 3, right? So just that alone is tiring for most people. But when people ask me, how do you do all these things? It's a grace. Right? If you did not have the grace to be able to do these things, you couldn't do these things, right? And so for myself personally, I'm grateful that I have a solid foundation that I stand on, and everything else emanates out of that, right?
Yeah. And Kristian, you're a mother as well, and you take care of a lot of things, not just inside the household, but outside the household in the community. It's a perfect balance that you have to do almost every day.
Absolutely. I think it's not easy, and every day you won't be perfect at everything, but you get what needs to be done. And I find that my work that I do in the community as a small-scale real estate developer and investor, on the school board, on many different city boards and committees, it prepares me for this work that I'm heading into. And so it all ties together in some way, because you're finding what are pain points for the community. You're finding where we have voids that need to be filled. And so the work all comes together. And I think that's when you know that you're in your purpose, which is motivating to know you're in your purpose, because it's all flowing together. Mm-hmm. So where one thing stops, the other thing picks up, and they're all helping each other.
Yeah, and just like Kristian, Monica, you are already in that political position, and then making sure that you not only take care of yourself, but also those in the community that you serve, and that's also something that is not easy to do. And so, how does it get accomplished now? Trying to go for your third term, how do you balance it? How do you get it done?
Well, Ed, it is a lot of work. I am over here looking like a bobblehead because I'm just agreeing with everything that these ladies are saying. And it's true. There's, the work-life balance. You have your children. You have your husband or your boo you got to take care of. You've got your church community. You've got the different boards that you serve on. We didn't just get here by happenstance. Right. We're very intentional, deliberate, but also the thing that we do is we rooted ourselves in our community by serving our community. I like to call myself a servant leader, as I know these ladies do as well. We don't just take the seat and sit in it. I'm sitting in a seat. No, we're working the seat. But it's because we've been working in the community. Yeah. So I find it a great honor. And everything that I do kind of ties back to what I do politically. And I take it as just a blessing and a privilege to be able to have a servant's heart, because I really don't feel like I work. I feel like I do a lot of things that I like to do with my life, but that's because, like Kristian said, that I'm coming from a place of passion.
In talking about passion, all of you, and I've witnessed for myself, have just poured a lot into the community, and it just is not just for women, it's children, everybody. And I know that sometimes when you get into the political realm, there's a switch that happens, right? And you can just look at the current political environment, how sometimes in some ways, in certain places, it can get a little toxic and everything from your perspective.
You think?
How do you protect the image that you have built as a servant leader of the community, and then serve the people in a political office where sometimes your opinion or your thoughts or your voting doesn't gel with a particular constituent or a PAC or something like that? How does that happen? Anybody?
Great leaders across time have not always had everyone agree with them. And there's no place that I know of on this earth that everyone is going to agree on everything. But if we can at least come to a place of consensus where we understand this is what needs to be done for the greater good, we can begin to move forward. In order to do that, you have to listen to the people. You got to hear them. If you're not hearing what people say and you're just out there doing things, then you're just doing what you want to do, right? And I think great leaders are people who do listen and who are grounded, right? And so you said the term, how do you hold on to that image of being a servant leader that you've built up? It's what's in your heart. Because if it's not rooted and grounded in your heart, that's not truly who you are. So you can put on a facade for so long, right? But at some point, you're going to slip up and people are going to see what's behind the curtain and who you really are. Yeah. And so I've never tried to be anything different, because I found out long ago in my past that it just doesn't work, that I was the round peg trying to fit into the square hole. And I finally realized who I was and what was in me. And I grabbed a hold of that. And that's the only thing I can be, is who I am. I can't be anything for anybody else. And I have to hold on and believe in the things that ground me, that hold me, that root me in this world, right? And my faith is number one, first and foremost. And I always use that to guide me in whatever direction I go in, the decisions I make, right or wrong or indifferent, because there's no perfect decision, right? We're all going to make mistakes. We have all made mistakes. We all have a past, right? But if we can just come together and work together and not have all of our own personal pockets that we're trying to pour into, I think we can do some great things.
Absolutely. And nobody is more passionate about a particular person than parents to their child. And when you're on the school board,
that's what we're working for. We're
right.
working for their future.
That's right.
I know that the ladies here, I want to say thank you, Power, for putting me here with these wonderful, beautiful, intelligent women. Yes. Because people can look behind the scenes and think, oh, there's contention there, or, they don't care about each other.
Yep.
These ladies care.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that is why they both have my endorsement, because I've seen them in action. I know that they care about the community, and what they're saying right now is what they really mean.
Yeah.
They do it behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, everything. So and so like people,
But she was
like
a
people.
trailblazer.
Yeah. So I really like the term that you can't lead by pointing your finger, you have to move your feet. That's like my little mantra.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I always like to say, Ed, because we don't always agree. I believe we're all here are Democrats, but we don't always even agree in that realm and space.
Not supposed
But
to.
I can tell you, right, I can't agree with everything everyone says because I have a different lived experience.
Right.
And when I look at the bigger picture, all Democrats aren't my friend and all Republicans haven't been my enemy.
Right.
So I like to look at a bigger picture. How do we get the things done? Like Lisa said,
Right.
where's the consensus? Where's that middle ground? Because I believe we're more alike than we are different, because there are things that we want, those goals, those end goals. So we got to get the emotion out of this politics. Like right
Yes.
now, this whole political scene is everybody's dog
The
eat
kindergarten
dog and
out of it.
the babies.
Yeah.
Right.
Wham, wham, wham. I'm tired of hearing that. We need to get to a point where we're working for the people, Ed, because
Right.
there's
That's
so
it.
much
They're
right
the ones
now.
who suffer when we play these games. Absolutely.
Yeah. And so nobody, like I said, nobody is more passionate about one person than their parents to their child.
Right.
You're on the school board, right? And so that in itself comes a challenge when you're you're trying to do the right thing, but you have parents who are your constituents, right?
Absolutely.
And they see it a different way, and that can be in itself not even have any political derivative and everything. We're talking about human interests and stuff.
Right.
How do you balance that?
So with the school board, because sometimes people will say, the school board is the lowest rung of the ladder, but on a school board, you're serving the entire city, not just a district. You're serving the entire city, the most vulnerable of those, and the group of people that your people are most passionate about, right? And so GRPS, before the pandemic, we had almost 17,000 students. And so I was president during the start of the pandemic and also during our 2 superintendent searches. And so those were really volatile times, right? We had a superintendent who had been with the district for 40 years. She was really loved. How do you replace that? And then how do you bring in a new person who jumps right into a pandemic? Her first day, we were already in a pandemic. So, we have a lot to do to serve not just our students, but the families. And the decisions that we made during that time didn't just move the district, it moved the county. We're the largest landholder. We have thousands of staff. We're one of the largest employers in the county. Bus drivers, all of these moving parts. And what has always grounded me is that our former superintendent, Teresa Weather O'Neill, when I first came in as the youngest person to be elected to the school board, she said, honey, it's going to be some hard things, and people are going to try to sway you. The question that you should always ask is, what is best for kids? What's best for kids? And so we can debate the route to get there. We can debate many things, but usually there's a clear answer about what's best for kids. And so I've found that to help me not just at the district, but in a lot of other places, because as an elected official, you're working hard, you're putting your life on the line. Sometimes this can get blurred about what's best for you and what's best for your constituents. And people start saying a lot of me, me, me. But we're here to serve people. We're not here to lord over them or to decide what should be happening. We're here to hear from them, hear what they are asking for, and find a way to get that done in the best way possible. And so, when you talk about how do you stay a servant, you have to stay a servant leader, because it's not about you. It is about the people that you're serving.
It's so important that you have that perspective, because I kind of want to get into maybe one or two of the main things that are going on in your race that it deals with, county, state, city. What are we as voters need to pay attention to, especially when we go to the ballot box, but beyond that? So at the county level, I know we've had plenty of discussions and talked about some of the challenges and then some of the successes of, some of the stuff you've written, and then collectively as the commission, which you guys come up with, what are the main issues, one or two, that are happening at the county level that voters should be aware of?
Well, I think that the voters need to just remain cognizant that our role is different from the roles of the other commissioners and then the state rep here. Our role is to make sure that you have quality services while you live in Kent County. Nothing more, nothing less. And it's easy to get tripped up on some of the national issues, but I don't like to take those monkeys on my back because those are not things that I can affect. Only thing I can do is make sure the veterans have their services. There's a veterans millage that's available right now. We want to make sure those veterans are taken care of. There's a senior millage, so we want to vote yes on that as well. There's a Parks and Rec millage in Kentwood that we need to vote yes on. Those are the things that we need to really look at. And then we have the ARPA funds. So we had $1.93 billion of requests, 313 requests. And we only have $85 million to spend. So there's a big disconnect there. But that money that needs to be spent has to be transformational. It has to be spent on projects that are going to move the needle forward. So finding that balance and finding out, there's a lot of work on our end, but finding out what's going to make sense for the constituents in the end, that's where we're at. So voters just need to make sure that they're voting for people who are looking out for their interest as they live in Kent County.
Yeah, and let me just drop this on all our listeners and viewers. When it comes to the county and the city level, if a candidate is pro-life, don't have nothing to do with what goes on in the city politics or the city needs or services or the county level. It's not connected. So just if you see that person, if you see a candidate that says for Kent County or the city commission, it says I'm pro-life, run, because that's not what that's all about. You can pretty much tell what their agenda is going to be when they're in office, and there's absolutely nothing to do with the services of that chamber. So speaking of the city, there's some important stuff going around the city, and just keeping it balanced and keeping it healthy. And so talk about the two most important things you think are going on in the city that the voters need to be aware of and keep in mind in the fall.
I definitely want to push forth the senior millage because if people don't recognize, we all are getting older.
I'm a senior in training,
right?
Me too.
These are going to affect us, but also think about, don't think about your right now and be like, oh, this doesn't impact me. Think about your grandparents, think about your parents, think about those people and how that's going to impact them in the next coming years. But also Fair Housing has an initiative that they're pushing forth to be on the ballot. And that is going to really take some of those dollars that come from HUD and really help to expand some of the housing in our community, especially for people who are under that median income range. And I think that's really important. And one of the questions that they asked us on the forum last week was if we supported tiny houses and container homes. And I, for one, absolutely do. I look at it every single day. And I look at other cities and states that have adopted some of those areas and how it has actually impacted people to not only begin to create generational wealth, but to begin to address some of the other needs that people have. Because it's not just about housing. It's not just about employment. It's not just about health. It's about all of these things.
Yes.
Right? They all connect together, and you cannot have one without the other. Yes, you can try to find stable housing for somebody, but if you're not meeting their mental health needs and you're not meeting their employment needs and they're not able to take care of their children, and so now you're dealing with people who are operating out of scarcity, right? And then when people operate out of scarcity, there's a limited bandwidth, and so they begin to do things that are going to impact them that they feel are the best choices for them and their families, right? And so we need to be open and available and be able to expand some of the services that are going on here in our community. And then there's another initiative that's they're out trying to get names on the petition to put on the ballot for November as well. And that is to look at not defund the police, because we don't understand the terminologies. And so we just grab a hold of what somebody else said and we get mad because somebody else is mad and we don't really have all the facts that we need. But they're looking at how to adjust the charter, right? And so that we need protection. Let's just say that, right? But they also need training. Right. There's a lot of things that are off, and having been in the space where I was doing diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings for new cadets in the police department, I saw a lot, right? And so being able to think about how some of that money that is allotted can go to these same services in the community for mental health services and for outreach and for programming and for healthcare, all of the things, the social determinants of health that we need to focus on whenever we're doing anything, looking through a different lens, understanding that people come from different lived experiences, and being able to provide some of the services that people are lacking in the community is going to help shift the way our community is operating right now, because right now it's dysfunctional.
Yes.
It totally just is.
Yeah, that's true.
It's dysfunctional. True. And at the end of the day, our job when things come through the city, when ordinances are coming, when people are bringing their care and concern, is to listen, and then is to act. Because as Monica said earlier, we are servant leaders. That's our job.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And so our job is to serve.
So, and talking about serving at the state level, my grandmother used to, God rest her soul, she used to call it. I said, "Well, Grandma, you jumping because you're going from GRPS to the state level. It's like jumping from the frying pan into the fire." And she would always say, "Well, I like cooking grease, so what a." God rest her soul.
Good stuff.
So. At the state level.
She's ready.
Yeah.
She's definitely ready.
And I will say the work that I was able to do during the pandemic really prepared me for this, and seeing how much this particular district, the 82nd district, which is the heart of Grand Rapids, how a lot of the things that Lisa spoke to and that Monica spoke to, this district hasn't had the investment that it's needed in so long. And so as I do in my personal career, investing in places and spaces for families to thrive and communities to thrive, I see that disconnect. So some of the things that are really key at the state level are the foundational things, and how can I work to support the work that these two ladies will be doing? How can I make sure they have the resources that can actually affect change? So education, Michigan is really in the middle of the 50 states for investing in education, and we're falling every year on that list. And it shows. It shows in our workforce. It shows in how prepared our students are for college. We have not treated education as if it's important. But then we wonder, well, why is this happening? Why are all of the young people leaving the state? Why can't we attract big companies? We haven't invested in our future. Yeah. So education is so key and so important, and it has become a political vice. But we are educating all kids, whether they come from whichever household they come from, whichever party they're with. That's important. The next thing really is looking at the economic development of this district. How at the state level are we encouraging economic development in urban centers? I sit on many boards for downtown and other parts of the city, and we're investing, but then there's this line on the southeast side that we really don't cross when it comes for investment. And there has to be someone there saying, no, we have to invest. These families deserve to have opportunities to build wealth and to thrive, and it has to be intentional. And so at the county and state level, the resources and the policy has to be written for that to happen. And then that ties into housing and mental health and all of these other things that we really have to invest in. So this district right now really is in a state of unrest. We are seeing spikes in violence. We are seeing so many things, but those are symptoms of a problem. They aren't the problem. So the people who live here aren't just violent, or they aren't just causing issues to cause issues, but they are lacking, and we have underinvested in them in so many ways. And so now this is the reaction to that, and we have to really go back and invest in those systems that they deserve to see those outcomes change.
You're being on the GRPS. You talked about, I was picked in a certain district, but you serve the entire district and everything. Yeah. So that's the same thing, kind of like in the state rep, because what's important to somebody like on like Kirchville and Jefferson and Detroit is going to be totally different than somebody who lives up at the UP. So what's your approach? You get a bill, and it has, maybe it doesn't have necessarily anything to do with your district, but how do you get into the mindset of that person who may live up there, and try to be a good legislator?
I think you listen. So throughout my time at GRPS, I have also lobbied, for education and the other supports that we need for our families to thrive. And I've come across quite a few legislators who are supporting different initiatives or different legislation, and you can tell they didn't do their homework. So, they'll ask us questions like, do kids really need breakfast before school? And we're like, are you serious?
Do you need breakfast before work?
Or they will,
coffee.
and there will be some legislation that they're supporting, and we're like, well, we're not sure if you actually applied this to any real district. So we actually took that information and applied it. This is what it would look like in our district. This is how many kids it would affect. This is how it would cut our dollars. And to see legislators say, wow, really, we didn't know that. That's quite alarming. That's very alarming. So you do your homework, you do your work, you see how it applies in real life.
Yes.
And you talk to other people who will be affected, and whether it affects your district or somewhere else, you do the work, and that's how you make the decisions.
And Monica, we got about just a few minutes left. There's a young lady or young man out there who are interested in getting into politics and maybe running for any one of the positions that you have in the future, wherever they may. What's the inspiration? What's the word? Because black men, black women in politics is still a thing that we have to run our numbers up with, get more influence in. So what's the inspiration in about a minute or so?
The inspiration is go. If you feel in your heart that you need to step up and help use your influence to help others, then do it. I'm here to help. These ladies are here to help. There are people that are willing to help you, but start somewhere. If it's school board, if it's serving on a planning committee, there's so many places that you can start. But you have to start. Don't just go to presidency. Kind of work your way through it.
Kristian, same thing in a few seconds.
I think you start in the community. Yeah. There are so many people who come to me and say, well, you were so young and you just got started. I'm like, no. I was a teen mom. And so even before I became a teen mom, I had mentoring programs. I was in high school mentoring middle school, and letting my teachers make that my third hour. When I graduated from Michigan State, I had a mentoring program for teen moms. While I was at Michigan State, I started student orgs. Start the work and you're going to learn so much and it'll find you. But don't be shy to say it's what you want either.
Yes.
But a lot of people want the title before they do the work, and the work is what qualifies you.
Lisa?
I agree with both women, and we'll just add another layer onto that. Knowing who your community is, be engaged in community. I told somebody the other day, listen, if I don't win this, it doesn't stop what I do. Yes. I still connect with people. I still try to provide opportunities and resources for people. It's just what I do. So I don't wake up in the morning and put on a different hat. This is just part of the skin that I live in. Yeah. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity. It's a scary thing to do that and put yourself out there, but I feel like I've always been out there. I've kind of been an outlier most of my life anyway. So, I've never been afraid of running into the fire. And I believe I'm going to be like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and not get burned.
No, I can speak if you're ever thinking about who you're going to vote for, and if you need an endorsement from little old Lee Stevens.
We would love that.
They all count. All of the votes count.
These ladies are bona fide and certified. When I was on the radio, I had a saying, you never want to put yourself in a position where you have to second guess what you are thinking or believing in. And I have absolutely no second guesses on these three ladies. Monica Sparks,
awesome.
Kristian Grant, Lisa Knight. I'm Lee Stevens. I wish you all good favor out there on the streets, busting out to get those votes and stuff. Everybody, the main thing is vote.
Vote.
August 2nd,
yes.
And then November 8th.
And November 8th, August 2nd, November 8th. Get out there and vote. It's
And
so
support
important.
your candidates financially because they need that support.
Let the dollars circulate, as Billy Paul would say.
That's it.
You've been listening to Community Voices on Power 91.9 FM and YouTube. Shout out to Pastor Lachey. We missed you this time around, but we got you back. And everybody, make sure that you like this video and share. All right? Take care and vote.
Vote.
Vote. Thank you.
You've been listening to Community Voices with your host, Terrence Lachey. Community Voices can be heard every Friday at 12 noon. This radio roundtable features community, business, and religious leaders that discuss current events and topics that impact our urban community. If you would like to be a guest, or if you have a suggested topic, contact the station today at 616-259-7342. Until next week, let your voice be heard in the community.